And at number 10, Bob Saget. Legendary comedian Bob Saget passed away suddenly on January 9th in a hotel room in Orlando. Immediately after his passing, fans were speculating on how he passed. After some investigation, it was reported that there was no foul play or use of substances, that he most likely just passed away of a heart attack or stroke. But the autopsy has just come back, and we know that he actually died of blunt force trauma to the head, a much different story than what was said before. The night before he died, Saget did a show at a concert hall in Jacksonville, Florida. Then he was found unresponsive in his room at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, quote, in a face-upward position on his bed, according to a police report. Police are now saying a fall could be the reason, but other experts are claiming the force used is similar to that of a baseball bat, raising even more questions. As of now, Saget's family is blocking the release of any records pertaining to the case over privacy issues, so it seems we may never know what really happened to cause his death. And at number 9, Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera, best known from the show Glee, shocked the world when it was reported that she had gone missing in a lake in July of 2020. She was out on a boat with her young son, and after many hours on the water, the boat returned with only her son on it. Her child was found asleep on the vessel by a boater that afternoon, alongside Rivera's purse, wallet, and ID, but Naya was nowhere to be found. After searching the lake for days, her body was discovered. The Ventura County Sheriff's Department announced on July 13th that they had recovered her body following an extensive search and recovery effort. Since then, her death has been ruled an accident, but for many fans, the whole thing just seems too strange to be true, and unfortunately we will never know the full story of what happened on the boat that day. And at number 8, Michael Jackson. The king of pop died suddenly at the age of 50 after suffering a cardiac arrest in June of 2009, but there's been so much mystery around his death, it went from being ruled an OD to a homicide. He was found unresponsive in his home, and it was determined that he ingested too much of a substance. After investigation, his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was charged with manslaughter, with the courts arguing he prescribed Jackson much more than was needed and his prescription caused his death. The years after his passing, allegations of inappropriate conduct from former friends of Jackson's came to light. And ever since, fans have been trying to figure out what really happened between Jackson and the kids he would spend time with at his home. The secrets of what truly happened will now never be uncovered. And at number 7, Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is known for a lot of things, specifically being one of the founding fathers of the USA, but it seems he was not always faithful to his wife, and he had a mysterious son with another woman. The son, named William Franklin, was clear he was the son of Franklin's, but notoriously mysterious over who his mother was. Some suspect he was born before Ben married Deborah Reed, making him illegitimate. Another theory is that he cheated on his wife with a mistress who ended up getting pregnant. William was involved with his father's business and even became noteworthy in his own right for helping his father in his famous kite experiment. He eventually settled in England to distance himself from the family, and when he passed, he never revealed who his mother was. And at number 6, Kurt Cobain. Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain tragically passed away at the age of 27 in 1994 and is a member of the infamous 27 Club. Law enforcement determined that Cobain took his own life, but there was a lot of inconsistencies in his case that led many to speculate that's not actually how he died. A book was even written blaming the whole thing on Cobain's wife, Courtney Love. The book claims that he died of an OD before being shot by Love. A private detective who was hired determined that Love even tried to pay someone to have them kill Cobain for her. This man claimed he was offered $50,000 and even passed a polygraph proving it. Although Love was never officially charged, she's guilty in the court of public opinion, and many fans are convinced she is responsible, but only Cobain knows the truth. And at number 5, Ludwig Van Beethoven. On his deathbed, Beethoven wrote a love letter to the love of his life, although he didn't address it to anyone, so we have no idea who this woman was. When he died in 1827, a letter was left to the Germans' immortal beloved. It was later determined that he wrote the letter years before in 1812. Scholars have tried to speculate who his beloved could be, but there is no clear answer. The most likely choice seems to be Antoine Bertinato. She was close with him, mainly because she was actually married to a good friend of his. Others proposed Josephine Countess von Brunswick as the most likely candidate because he had written her love letters in the past. It was speculated that since she was poor and of low social standing, he was not allowed to be open about his true feelings for her. Since he never told anyone, only he knows the answer. And at number 4, the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia is one of the most infamous cases in LA history. On January 15th of 1947, 22-year-old Elizabeth Short's body was found dead in a vacant lot near a park in LA. The state of her body was the most concerning. Her body was cut in half and all the blood was drained from it. Her body was also perfectly clean, so no evidence was able to be collected from it. There was only one witness that was any help to police. The person claimed they saw a black sedan parked in the area the night before. Since her passing, there have been tons of theories about how or why it happened. And even though so much time has passed, nobody has ever been charged for the crime. Today, the Black Dahlia case remains one of the oldest cold case files in LA, as well as the city's most famous. And at number 3, Prince. Prince is one of the most legendary singers of all time, who made a huge impact on the industry, but his shocking death left many with unanswered questions, and many fans are still convinced we don't know the full story. On April 21st of 2016, he was found unresponsive in an elevator at the Paisley Park studio. Initially, the police marked it as an accident because when he passed away, he had many substances in his system. No charges were filed against anyone, even though many of Prince's fans do not believe he would have done this. Years later, there is still no definitive answers, specifically no idea how he got these substances and how he was able to ingest so much. According to sources that knew him very well, he didn't use any of these substances and had no intentions to start. Because there's still so many unanswered questions, the case remains open. And at number 2, George Reeves. In 1959, actor George Reeves was killed under very mysterious circumstances. He made a name for himself playing Superman in the 1950s TV show Adventures of Superman, but his career was cut short after he was killed. At the age of 45, he was killed by a shot to the head. The strange death was then labeled as him taking his own life, but many fans do not believe this could be the case. It was rumored that he was intentionally killed or the death was completely accidental. To add even more strangeness, the death happened while Reeves was with 3 other people, including his fiancée. But even though all those people most likely witnessed what actually happened, none of them ever told. And finally, at number 1, Nicole Brown Simpson. One of the most talked about cases of all time is the case of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Their death started the case of O.J. Simpson that would become the trial of the century. Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were killed outside Simpson's Brentwood, California condo in 1994. After some investigation, it was clear that O.J., her ex-husband, was the prime suspect. His DNA had been found at the crime scene, and witnesses saw him leaving the scene of the crime that night. After an intense and highly publicized trial, he was found not guilty, and with no other suspects considered, the person responsible is still out there. Although many people are convinced that O.J. is the person who did it, and lucky circumstances are the real reason he got off. He was later found guilty of committing the act in a civil lawsuit done by Ron Goldman's family, but because of O.J.'s financial troubles, he has not paid this debt. Years later, O.J. went to prison for robbery and is now out free. Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we have Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, was an American hitman and organized crime figure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Beloved actor, Woody Harrelson had a father who was a cold-blooded killer. He was just 7 at the time when his father first went to prison. It's said that he was responsible for the deaths of at least 20 people. In 1979, that is when Charles committed his biggest kill of all time. He took out a federal judge by the name of Judge John H. Wood Jr. He was the first federal judge to be killed in the 20th century. He was paid $250,000 to kill off this judge. It was because a drug dealer was about to be sentenced by this judge, who was known as Maximum John, because he always gave out really harsh punishments to drug dealers. So he got Charles to knock him off for him. But this landed him behind bars and in solitary confinement. He was there until he was 69 when he died from a heart attack. Obviously, Woody does not want to be defined by his father's actions. In our 9th spot, we have Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is one of the few actors who actually grew up in a cult. He was born into the commune of Children of God, but when he was 4 years old, his parents managed to escape the cult and move. That's actually why they changed their last name to Phoenix, as it symbolizes rebirth, since they were able to leave this cult and start a new life. Unfortunately, he also lost his brother at a young age. In 1993, his brother River Phoenix died from an overdose. Joaquin witnessed this happen, and he was the one that called 911. In our 8th spot today, we have Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis is best known for his role of Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I freaking love that show. Like, it was honestly my childhood. Well, before his Disney Channel days, he actually killed someone. In December of 1991, Lewis fatally hit a 21-year-old woman. She passed away from her injuries from the hit. It was found that Lewis was driving while intoxicated. His blood alcohol levels were 3 times times the legal limit of intoxication. As a result, he was convicted of a DUI as well as manslaughter. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 2 years probation, and 350 hours of community service. But he managed to only serve 1 year in prison. I guess Disney was able to overlook his past when he auditioned for Mosby on the show. In our 7th spot today, we have Tim Allen. Now, if you look at Tim Allen, you think, aw, he's such a family man. I love Home Improvement and Toy Story. He's a great actor. Wow. Tim Allen actually had quite a dark past before he got into acting. In 1978, Allen was arrested for attempting to traffic more than 650 grams of coke. He was arrested in Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport. Now, he actually would have served a lifetime in prison, but he avoided this by giving police information about other dealers. As a result, his sentence was reduced to 3 to 7 years. He ended up serving 2 years and 4 months in prison and then was granted parole in 1981. I guess that's why they say don't judge a book by its cover, because he looks like a wholesome dad, not a drug trafficker. In our 6th spot, we have Jack Nicholson. In 1974, Time magazine discovered that Jack's sister, June, was actually his mother, not his sister. How wild is that? So June was only 17 when she became pregnant with Jack, and she wasn't married, so her parents agreed to raise the child as their own, with Jane and Lorraine acting like his older sisters. So his parents were actually his grandparents, and his sister Lorraine was his aunt. In regards to his dad, we don't know for sure who is his dad, but some say it was likely June's manager. Other sources claim June really just doesn't know who the father was. By the time Jack found this all out, his mom, June, and his grandma had already passed away. Imagine how that would have changed his life. Like he was raised on a lie. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Sean Penn. A number of women have come forward saying that Sean Penn has been aggressive towards them. In fact, he has mistreated a number of his partners, including Madonna. They were married from 1985 to 1989. While in December of 1988, Penn allegedly tied Madonna to a chair and held her hostage for 9 hours and apparently hit her multiple times. When he untied her to let her use the bathroom, she fled to the police station. One officer said, and I quote, "Madonna staggered into the station. She was distraught, crying, with makeup smeared all over her face. I hardly recognized her. She had obviously been struck." Sean was charged with inflicting corporal injury and traumatic conditions on Madonna, as well as battery. But Madonna withdrew her complaint a week later and has rarely commented on it since, which is quite odd. Why would she say that he harmed her and then retract the statement? So who knows what really happened? Moving on to number 4, we have Leighton Meester. Now, I personally did not know this, but Blair Waldorf, aka Leighton Meester, wasn't always the queen bee of Manhattan. In fact, she was born in prison. Basically, her mom was serving a sentence after smuggling a lot of marijuana out of Jamaica with the help of Leighton's dad and Aunt Judy. All of them ended up behind bars. In fact, her aunt managed to escape prison and became America's first woman on the US Marshals 15 Most Wanted list. How insane is that? In the end, Leighton's grandmother raised her while her mom served 16 months in prison. Thank gosh she didn't follow in her family's footsteps. In our 3rd spot, we have Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken was involved in a death that is just shrouded in mystery. On November 29th, 1981, 43-year-old actress Natalie Wood was found dead, floating face down in the Pacific Ocean. She was on a yacht with her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken when this happened. The thing is, no one really knows what happened to her. Some say she slipped off the deck and fell into the water, while others are convinced that her husband or Christopher Walken had something to do with it, or that they know what happened. One theory is that Natalie and Christopher were having an affair, Wagner found out about it, got mad, and pushed her off the yacht. Now, Wagner seems to be the prime suspect, but many people think that Walken knows exactly what happened. I mean, he barely even talks about the case, and on the rare occasion that he did, he would call it an accident, and also he was absent from the documentary about her. All I'm gonna say is someone knows something. I'm getting the vibe that Walken knows what happened and maybe he just feels guilty about it. In our 2nd spot, we have Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron actually had a very traumatic upbringing. Her dad struggled with alcohol addiction and would constantly threaten Charlize and her mom, Gerda. He would never physically hurt her, but he would hurt Gerda. One night in June of 1991, he got angry and fired shots at both of them. During that altercation, Gerda ran and grabbed her own handgun that she had kept hidden and shot him back. Her shots killed him while Charlize watched it all unravel. In the end, it was declared self-defense and Gerda never faced any charges. But think how traumatizing that must have been for her to see her mother shoot and her dad as a teenager. And in our number 1 spot today we have Ashton Kutcher. Now I never knew this and I was incredibly shocked when I found out about it. But on February 21st of 2001, Ashton Kutcher went over to his then girlfriend's house, Ashley Elrin. The two had planned on going to a post-Grammy party, but when he knocked on the door, there was no answer. That's because Ashley was dead on the floor of her home. She had been stabbed 47 times by a man named the Hollywood Ripper. He was responsible for the death of up to 10 women. As a result, Ashton Kutcher lost his girlfriend very suddenly and in a very traumatic way. He was also scared that he was going to be a suspect in the murder investigation since his fingerprints were on her door, but he never was, but he did have to testify in court. And at number 10, holiday stint in treatment. On January 10th of this year, it was reported that Demi was home after a stint in rehab for the holidays. Demi has struggled with substance issues for years, and after being declared sober for the last few years, Demi decided to go back to treatment over the holidays. A source said Demi, quote, completed a rehab stint in Utah recently and is now back in Los Angeles. Adding, quote, they wanted to get back on track and recently swore off being California sober. Demi's friends and family were there to support them during their time in rehab. Apparently, Lovato wanted to start the year off in a good path, and going back to rehab helped a lot with this. Demi has also made lifestyle changes now that they are back. The insider added, quote, Demi will have a sober living companion with them during this transition. It was their decision to go back to rehab. Demi has not addressed these reports, but they have wiped their Instagram feed. And at number 9, not California sober anymore. After their OD in 2018, Demi has struggled with maintaining sobriety. After the OD, they claim that they were California sober, which is when a person does no substances other than the green one that you smoke. I can't say it on YouTube. Demi posted to Instagram on December 2nd admitting they were not fully sober and they needed to be 100% clean. Writing, quote, I no longer support my California sober ways. Sober is the only way to be. After reflecting on her different take towards different substances, they knew they needed to make a big change, and now it's all or nothing. These comments came shortly after Lala Kent slammed Lovato for the California sober term. Lala claimed that the term was super offensive and minimized how hard it is to be actually sober. Lala claimed that if you are doing any substance, you are not sober. Clearly, Demi resonated with these words. And at number 8, Demi was the bully, not the victim. Demi Lovato has been open about being bullied when they were younger. However, a lot of people from that school claim that Demi was lying, and in reality, they were actually the ones bullying other students. On Reddit, people were asked to list the celebrities who attended their high school, and some were pointing out how Lovato was the real bully at their school. Apparently, Demi was a part of the cool clique that would tease other people, and since Demi was a TV star by that point, it makes sense that people would want to be friends with them. Those accounts depicted the total opposite of what Demi has been saying for years. And not only were the students speaking up against Demi, but the teachers did too. They agreed that the singer was rude in school. Clearly, Demi has been telling a lot of lies about their past. And at number 7, Selena Gomez feud. Demi Lovato has made tons of shady digs about Selena Gomez. The pair started as friends, acting on Barney and Friends as kids. Their friendship continued into their teen years when they both became Disney stars. But things started to become tense when Selena got other friends and Demi felt left behind. When asked how Selena was in 2010, Demi replied, quote, ask Taylor Swift. Yikes, jealous much? Eventually, the pair mended their feud, and Demi admitted that Selena was one of the only people to contact them after their OD. But problems came once again when Demi unfollowed Selena, and it was clear the tension was brewing once again. Then in May of 2020, Demi exposed that the two don't keep in touch at all, which was a huge shock because Selena had just publicly supported Demi on Instagram. All in all, Demi looks like the bad guy in this debacle, and public opinion is firmly on the side of Selena Gomez, because it seems Selena has always tried to mend their issues while Demi just wants to keep feuding. And at number 6, hit backup dancer. One of the shadiest things that Demi has ever done was hitting one of their backup dancers in the face. This took place in November of 2010 while Demi was on tour with the Jonas Brothers. Demi was only 18 at the time and was acting pretty badly during the whole tour. Typical teenage behavior for the most part. But things turned really nasty when they got in trouble with the tour managers for a certain issue, and Demi demanded to know who ratted them out to the managers. After Demi figured out who snitched, Demi did the unthinkable and hit the dancer Alex Welch in the face. Welch initially complained that Lovato never apologized to her after this incident, but Demi's rep said this was because Demi was sent straight to rehab after the incident. In late December of 2010, people reported that Welch and Lovato reached a settlement for an undisclosed sum, part of which was donated to charity. Halfway number 5, offensive joke. During the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Demi made an offensive joke about the Zika virus that showed their true colors. After Demi and their mom were interviewed, Demi decided to post a clip from this interview on Snapchat. But this was a big mistake. In the story, you can see Demi laughing at a joke their mom made about Zika. In this clip, their mom said that everyone is going to come back with the Zika virus, and Demi looked at her and laughed at the insensitive joke. People started flooding Twitter, tweeting that the joke was offensive and wrong, and upset that Demi laughed. Demi brushed off the criticism and did not address it. Many fans found this hypocritical, because Demi can rarely take a joke when it's said about them, and has attacked many celebrities for shady comments in the past. And at number 4, body positivity hypocrite. One of the main movements that Demi supports is body positivity, so it's hard to see that in the past, Demi has supported things that go against this movement. One interesting thing to note is that Demi is close with the Kardashian family, who are obviously very harmful to the body positivity movement, as they promote diet culture and harmful body modifications. This is strange considering Demi has blasted Taylor Swift for her girl squad full of models in the past, because Demi did not believe that Taylor's squad was inclusive. Even worse, in 2017, Demi promoted one of the many detox teas on the market, which we know are incredibly damaging products that are generally touted as weight loss products. And at number 3, lied about sobriety. Demi is very open about their struggle with sobriety, and they've had a few relapses in the past. In Demi's 2017 documentary, Demi Lovato, Simply Complicated, Demi admitted that while they were promoting the Stay Strong campaign about sobriety in 2012, they were actually still using illicit substances, so they completely lied to their fans. In the documentary, Demi says, quote, "I wasn't working my program, I wasn't ready to get sober. I was sneaking things on planes, I was sneaking it in bathrooms, sneaking it throughout the night. I went on a bender of like 2 months where I was using daily." After one particularly rough night, Demi wound up in the hospital for mixing too much. Demi was placed in a psych ward and forced to get sober. They say that night they came close to losing their life. And at number 2, arrogant attitude. Many of Demi's former classmates have come forward and exposed that they thought they were better than everyone else while growing up. Since Demi started in Hollywood at a young age, acting in Barney and Friends when they were only 10 years old, they clearly thought they were above their classmates. But obviously that's never a good attitude to have. Former classmates have come out and said how Lovato would look down on them because they had been on TV. This is far from the way that Demi is portrayed. Demi claims that they were teased when they were younger and had a humble upbringing, but clearly that's not true. And finally at number 1, physical fights. Not only was Demi a bully in school, apparently it was not just with words, and Demi would get physical when they were angry. A Tumblr user once spoke and said that she was bullied by the Skyscraper singer in school. Apparently, this girl became friends with a popular group of girls at school, and Demi did not like this, and Demi decided to attack this girl for no reason. It started with name calling and nasty comments, but then turned into physical harm. The girl claimed that one time Demi pulled her hair and smeared makeup all over her face. The girl claimed this was the worst day of her life. It's crazy considering Demi is a voice against bullying and has been a part of many anti-bullying campaigns in the past. But since this story lines up with so many other stories about Demi, it's hard not to believe it.